Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about line in 3 dimensions. That's when you use line in space and you make a sculpture out of it. Something that's not flat on the paper, but something that has multiple sides. So I went to the De Young Museum in San Francisco to see a show called the De Young Open, which is a collection of artists just from the Bay Area. And there were lots of sculptures there with line that I wanted to show you. So I brought a slideshow so you can see them. So I have 4 artists here that were in the De Young Open, and coincidentally, they're all also women, which I didn't know when I selected these pieces to show you. I didn't know who made them. This is Spiked Curve by Ava Kennedy. Can you tell what this is made out of? If you look close, you can see screws and zip ties, things that you could find at the hardware store in your garage, just hanging around. So she made these out of everyday objects. And what I love about this is the shape of it, but also the shadow in the picture on the left. Look at this 3 dimensional form. It makes this flat shadow on the pedestal that's so interesting. She called this spiked curve, and she made it during the pandemic. And she wanted to create a picture of what a spiked curve kind of looks like. This one is called Lace 12, Oscar Schlemmer's Dancer by Barbara M. Burke. She likes to do things related to sewing, but with items that you wouldn't usually sew with. Like this is a embroidery stitch, a particular kind of stitch that you would sew with, and she's made it out of wire. And it makes this beautiful shape after she twisted it around and made it into the form she wanted. This is Bia 2 by Holly Wong, and it's made out of cut drafting paper, all different colors. And she's sort of woven them and made some stick up off the paper and some flat on the paper. And this was interesting, but when I looked at the rest of her work, look what I found. This is like a whole room full of that. I love this. You should make this in your house. So now that we've looked at how some of our local artists work with line in space, remember not flat on the paper, but in the space, in the air, we're going to do our own sculpture. When all you need is paper, scissors, and something to attach paper to paper, like a glue stick, glue, tape would be fine, a stapler, whatever you have. You can use colored paper, or you can make your own colored paper, or you can use magazines, junk mail, whatever you have around. So this is an example of a paper sculpture that I was working on. And I'd like you to experiment with different shapes that you can make with paper. So I'm going to show you a couple things to get you started, and also how you can make your own colored paper. If you don't have construction paper or something, you can make your own. So here I've got just a white piece of paper, and I want to make some color. You can take a crayon and do a rubbing, just like this. And you can see the texture of my table here coming through, which makes it sort of interesting. You can layer different colors on top of that to make some nice, more interesting colors. You can also, if you have some markers, a water-based marker, regular Crayolas work great, you can color on your paper. It doesn't have to be perfect, just add some color. And that's great. But a neat trick you can do with these too is you can take water and a paintbrush and just blend it, and it makes a sort of watercolor paint. So that's a neat trick I learned recently. You can even sort of mix these things together. And once you let this dry, you've got some great paper to cut up and make shapes. So I have a couple shapes over here to get you started. Once my paper was dry, I cut it into strips. You can do a ton with strips. One thing you can do is just curl them up. And then you can sort of make little feet on the bottom and glue them down with their little feet like that. You can take your scissors and cut and make a fringe. And then you can stand that on your paper however you like. Glue that down. This is an accordion fold, and just fold it back and forth the whole way. And then you can even cut parts of that if you want. And it'll sort of pop out when you open it up. And you can make those go different ways. And all these you're going to glue on your paper however you want. This one is a fun one. I just took a regular strip, held it like this, and I cut down, but not all the way to the end, just partially to the end. And then you have this cool thing, and you can stand that up, and you can put things on top of things, sideways, any way you want. This is all about however you want to do it. So you've got a couple tips to get you started, and do whatever you like to do. I can't wait to see what you come up with, because I know your ideas will be different than mine.